And we're live, pal. Welcome, everyone, to the MMA Fighting UFC 238 official weigh-ins. Live from Chicago. We're just about to get underway. My name is Jose Youngs. I was your tour guide through the UFC 238 Media Day yesterday. You can hop over to MMAfighting.com's YouTube page and watch all of our videos, stare downs, etc. Or go to MMAfighting.com. Watch, I see Ricardo Lamas standing off to the side. He seems ready to go. Alexa Grasso pops her head out. And we're underway. Absolutely massive turnout behind me. As always, ESPN doing their thing behind me. And I will be monitoring the comment section periodically when I have time. I, of course, forgot my computer charger. Maybe you can hear my old coworker here in Hawaii behind me. There he is. Ricardo Lamas with Alexa Grasso still standing there. Looks like a UFC employee just waiting for the signal to allow them to start weighing in. Alexa Grasso all smiles. Looks like we're good to go. We got the thumbs up from 2 people. And I'm not sure what else we're waiting on. Oh, there we go.
We have Ricardo Lamas at featherweight.
Ricardo Lamas, up first, former featherweight title challenger. He, of course, came up short to Jose Aldo, UFC 169, back in New Jersey. That was Super Bowl weekend. Let's see what we have. That's 145 for Ricardo the Bully Lamas, Chicago native. Fought at UFC 225 last year in Chicago. Dropped a split decision to Mirsad Bektic, but he rebounded with a TKO over Darren Elkins back in November in Buenos Aires. Looks like Alexa Grasso is up next.
Alexa Grasso at women's strawweight.
And I was right. Alexa Grasso, her last fight was May 2018. Just got submitted by Tatiana Suarez, who also finds fights on this card. I'm sure we'll talk about her a lot in the next few days. She told me at media day she was hungry to erase that last loss.
Step out of the shot, sir. Thank you. 5 seconds.
115 pounds for Guadalajara's own Alexa Grasso. She hasn't fought since May 2018, and before that it was August 2017. She says it was also the best and worst year of her life. She worked on a lot of things going on, and she's just hungry to get back in there now that she's 100% healthy. So 115 for Alexa Grasso. Looks like Marlon Moraes. And there we are, Marlon Moraes up next. Fights in the main event. The vacant bantamweight title against Henry Cejudo, former World Series of Fighting champion. Did not have many nice things to say about Henry Cejudo yesterday at the media day. He got into a little altercation with Henry Cejudo's teammate, Bruno Silva, I think that was his name. If I remember correctly.
$134.
134 pounds for Marlon Moraes. One half of our main event is ready to go. He did get, and was Bruno Silva. They were yelling at each other in Portuguese after this face-off. Henry Cejudo ran out. Frankie Edgar, Marlon's teammate, had to get pulled back by Mark Henry. It was a very chaotic scene. I don't think anyone was expecting that. But Marlon Moraes, 134, one-punch man, Krillin, whatever you want to call him. One half of our main event is official for the vacant bantamweight title. It's obviously vacant, of course, because TJ Dillashaw He did voluntarily give it up after his anti-doping violation, which later came out to be positive for EPO. No, Henry Cejudo has not weighed in yet, for those in the comments.
Lewis at middleweight.
Bevon Lewis, however you want to pronounce it, is up next. Middleweight, fighting Terrence Stewart on the early prelims. His nickname is the Extraordinary Gentleman, Bevon Lewis.
$186.
186 for the Extraordinary Gentleman, Bevon Lewis, looking to erase his knockout loss to Uriah Hall, which was his first professional loss of his career. Uriah Hall had a lot of positive things to say about him. He said he had a bright future in the sport. It was just his day that night.
Eddie Wineland at bantamweight.
Another former title challenger, this time at bantamweight, Eddie Wineland, Chicago's own Eddie Wineland, firefighter, up next.
$136. Hey, buddy!
Eddie, right here, right? At 5 seconds.
136.
Wait, Eddie, I didn't get it all.
Oh, Indiana, I should say, Chicago. I don't know what I was thinking. 136 for Westville, Indiana's own Eddie Wineland, mustache and everything. He was handing out mustache stickers yesterday to a lot of the media. Last fought at UFC Boise, July 2018. Came up short to Alejandro Perez. Before that, he came up short to John Dotson. Does have a win over Takema Zugaki, Frankie Saenz, Yves Jobin, Brad Pickett, Scott Jorgensen. But if you look at the list of names he's come up short to, Uriah Faber, Joseph Benavidez, Hannon Barao, Brian Caraway. He's lost to a lot of good names up there. This is his first fight of 2019. Before that, one fight 2018, one fight 2017, two fights 2016. So not the most active fighter, but people will perhaps remember most his knockout loss to Hannon Barao, the spinning back kick to the face at UFC 165 in Toronto. Grigory Popov up next, fighting Eddie Wineland on the early prelims.
After the weight. Just
Chains and everything.
136.
136 for Grigory Popov. 13-2 UFC debut. Last few fights, TKO low kicks. Has a win by Gogo Plata in December 2017 on MFP 214. How many times you see win by Gogo Plata on someone's record? Looks like Joanne Calderwood is up next. Joanne Calderwood up next.
At flyweight.
Flyweight, former strawweight. Looking to make it 3-0 at flyweight.
$125.
125 for Jojo Calderwood, Scotland's own. Multiple-time kickboxing champion. Tough 20 fight of the season when she fought Rose. That was at strawweight, obviously. She says this is one of the first fights where she truly feels like her body's finally adapted to the 125-pound division.
Jon Xiaonin at women's strawweight.
Jon Lineker up next. If you haven't, I strongly recommend you watch our interview with her from UFC 230 yesterday. This is her first fight in the United States. Stole the show with her outfit at the UFC 230 at Media Day.
$116. 116
for Jon Lineker. Fury, 9. She has multiple nicknames. 10-1. This is not her UFC debut. She's 3-0 in the UFC, but this is her debut on U.S. soil. She's fought in China, Singapore, the Philippines. She's supposed to fight Felice
Tatiana
Herrig.
Suarez at women's strawweight.
She is now fighting Angela Hill. Tatiana Suarez up next, and we did talk about her a little bit. A lot of people consider her the uncrowned champion at strawweight. She's been referred to as the female Habib because of her relentless top game and pressure. She doesn't mind the nickname, though.
One 14.
114 for Tatiana Suarez. Undefeated, tough champion. Last victory was a TKO over inaugural strawweight champion Carla Esparza. Has a submission over Alexa Grasso, submission over Amanda Cooper, decision over Viviana Pereira. And she looked unstoppable. She fights Stina Ansaroff.
Angela Hill at women's strawweight.
And Angela Hill, fan favorite. Another fun interview from yesterday. Tough, former Invicta champ, former tough veteran. She was very proud that she has some of the most fights on the UFC roster in the strawweight division.
One 16.
116 for Angela Hill. Said that she's finally put it all together. She plans to become champion and hold the championship for, quote, a long time. She's coming off a decision over Jodie Esquibel, Sunrise. That was a short notice fight. Angela Hill is, of course, filling in for Felice Herrig against Xiao Nan. And for those of you wondering, I am being a little quiet because we have a couple live broadcasts behind us, the UFC reading out weights. I want to make sure everyone hears. Peter Yan up next, another fighter who's taken the UFC bantamweight division by storm. As you can hear, he has a large team behind him. Got into a friendly altercation with Pedro Munoz yesterday. There was a lot of back and forth on social media. They finally met face to face and hugged it out. So, all good between those two.
One 36.
136 for Peter No Mercy Yan. Coming off decision win over John Dawson, Prague. Told me directly that Russia wants one more champion. Looked at the camera and demanded a title shot after he beats Jimmy Rivera at UFC 238. He is on the main card too. That was a little surprise for a lot of people considering
Up next is Valentina Shevchenko at women's flyweight.
Aljamain and Munoz are on the prelims. They're ranked higher. Women's flyweight champion Valentina Shevchenko up next. She, of course, defends her 125-pound title against Jessica Ai. She does have history here in Chicago when she defeated Holly Holm.
One 24.
124 for the reigning champion, Bullet. Valentina Shevchenko, who told me she wants to stay active and defend her title more times than any female has ever defended her UFC title. Only 2 losses in the UFC are to Amanda Nunes in the bantamweight division. Karolina Kowalkiewicz up next, another fan favorite, former title challenger.
Women's strawweight.
Poland's own Karolina Kowalkiewicz, the Polish princess, former KSW flyweight champion.
116.
116 for the Polish princess, Karolina Kowalkiewicz. Welcome to race a 2-fight losing skid. She was knocked out by reigning champion Jessica Andrade to UFC 228 and it came up short to Michelle Waterson. That was in March. She told me she was healthy and just wanted to get back in there and race that last performance. Prior to that, she picked up a pair of decisions over Louise Herrick and Jodie Escobar, but came up short to Claudia Gadelia and Ioana Jędrzejczyk. So, she not the easiest string of fights for her, but she does have a win over former champion Rose Namajunas at UFC 201 back in 2016.
Nina Ansaroff at women's strawweight.
Sticking at strawweight, Nina Ansaroff up next. I believe one of the biggest underdogs on the whole card. She said she absolutely relishes that role. Amanda Nunes, her partner beside her, reigning UFC bantamweight and featherweight champion.
115.
115. And Nina Ansaroff, who told me it hasn't been confirmed, but she fully expects the winner of Tatiana and her to get the next shot at reigning champion Jessica Andrade.
Aljamain Sterling at bantamweight.
Aljamain Sterling up next, coming out ready, shirt off, ready to go. Always in shape. Did not hesitate to flex his abs at me at media day yesterday.
Oh, still, let's get it first, baby.
$134. 134.
Yeah! Championship, baby, let's go! Let's go!
134 for Aljamain Funkmaster Sterling.
Fucking time.
Wow.
Yeah, Joe.
That's a little surprising considering he told me that Pedro Munoz said, "I will make you my bitch" when they stared down, and he said, "I'll get you some soap for that potty mouth." And now he's here with that same potty mouth. What a world. I'm not calling, as you can admit, Casey Lyden, our cameraman, telling me I'm calling him a hypocrite. Never to his face, Casey. Aljamain also told me that, while it hasn't been confirmed, he fully expects the winner of him and Pedro Munoz to get the next shot at the winner of Saturday's main event between Henry Cejudo and Marlon Moraes. He's, of course, coming off a win over Jimmy Rivera. Terrence Stewart up next.
Easy work, Doc.
Fighting Bevan Lewis.
$185.5.
185.5 for Darren, the Dentist Stewart, London's own. Calls himself the dentist because, quote, his opponent is just another patient who's gonna get drilled. Those are his words. Also, classically trained in contemporary dance, ballet, street dance. So, a Renaissance man, of course. And they're the man of the hour, Prince Cejudo, as he's been dubbed by the internet. No props this time. He, of course, came out in a magician or illusionist attire. I don't want to offend anyone. No gold medal. He's looking fine. There were reports of his injury. It does not appear to be the case, but we'll see on Saturday.
$134.
134 for Henry, the Messenger Cejudo, Olympic gold medalist wrestling. He is clearly locked in. Didn't do a workout. Did one large scrum. And walked away. Kept his cape on. Kept the crown on. Pulled a rabbit out of his hat, a snake out of his hat, a mouse out of his hat. If you're not following along, he of course defeated Demetrius Johnson, the mouse. Mighty Mouse Johnson defeated Henry Cejudo. What am I talking about? Henry Cejudo defeated TJ Dillashaw, dubbed the snake, and then of course the rabbit, he says, signifies the magician, Marlon Moraes. And as he told me, he doesn't believe in magic. He's going for, of course, his second title. He's the reigning flyweight champion. He's going for the bantamweight championship. And there are a lot of questions remaining for both, but every bantamweight fighter said they fully believe Marlon winning benefits the entire division. Of heavyweight, popular, very popular heavyweight, Taito Ivasa next, who made UFC Embedded a must-watch this week, where he rapped with local Chicago hip-hop artist Red Velvet.
Let's go. $259.
259 for Bam Bam Taito Ivasa, Sydney's own. Coming off his first professional loss when he was finished by Junior Dos Santos in their main event fight in December. But he's in good spirits. Fights Blago Ivanov on the card.
Calvin Qatar.
Wow. Calvin Cater up next as another big turnout for Calvin behind us. Massachusetts own Calvin Cater. 146 for Calvin Cater, coming off a win, a TKO over Chris Fishgold back in October. Before that, he suffered his first UFC defeat to Renato Moicano. He also snapped. Prior to that, he had finished Shane Burgos in the fight of the night and defeated Andre Fili. So definitely one to watch in the featherweight division. It appears we might have our first break. I'm going to give it a minute before we go. We're going to go radio silent for a minute. And I will be back. This is Jose Young's MMA Fighting weigh-in stream. I'll be back in a few minutes. Or if I get surprised, I'll be back in a few seconds. But stick around. This is the weigh-in stream, and we're not going anywhere. This is just a quick break.
Just a couple minutes, we're gonna have another fighter. Okay, he's here. Heidi.
And we're back. It looks like we have some movement in the back, so I hopped on a little early. I don't see a fighter standing over there, though. You were giving a thumbs up. I just do not see anyone.
Tony Ferguson at lightweight.
Tony Ferguson, one half of the quote-unquote people's main event as he takes on Donald Cerrone on the main card. First fight since his victory over Anthony Pettis. And one of the biggest turns off his open workout, former interim champion, tough champion.
$155.
155 for El Cucuy. Tony Ferguson told me that they called him to quote-unquote save this card with Donald Cerrone. Said he had no idea who else was fighting on the card. He meant it as no disrespect, but he viewed it as the UFC asking him to save this card. 3-round fight. Said he hadn't fought 3 rounds in a while. He of course fought Anthony Pettis in a 3-round fight. Didn't make the 3 rounds. Says that 3 rounds should benefit him considering Donald Cerrone starts slow, which is his own admission. Donald Cerrone told me he wishes it was a 5-round fight as he gets better as the fight progresses, especially considering his last fight against Ali Quinta. He, quote-unquote, felt terrible walking into the octagon. So Tony Ferguson makes weight. Still holds the longest winning streak in UFC lightweight history with 11. Former interim champion, of course, lost his interim title after being injured. He won it against Kevin Lee. He returned against Anthony Pettis. He had a stretch of where his family issues became public. But do not ask him how he's doing, or he will tell you to, quote unquote, F off. Worry about yourself. So if you see Tony Ferguson, don't ask him how he's doing and if he's all right, because he doesn't want to hear it. His quote, "This is not a 30 for 30. Also has 4 fight of the nights. Edson Barbosa, Lando Venata, Rafael Dos Anjos, Anthony Pettis, who are both former lightweight champions. Anthony Pettis also challenged for the interim featherweight championship. Knockout of the night over Ramsey Nijem. I believe that was when he won tough. One submission, a couple performances. By far one of the most fan-friendly fighters on the roster. One of the most creative and unique individuals on the roster. One of the longest workouts I've ever watched at his open workout, where he did everything from breakdance to limbo to kung fu. He said he can bring anything to the table. He said he'll breakdance on Donald Cerrone if he wants. He'll kung fu fight him if he wants. Fully expects to win this fight and fight for the UFC lightweight title next. Whether that's Dustin Poirier or Khabib Nurmagomedov, we don't know. They're of course fighting in September in Abu Dhabi. Then of course Conor McGregor is floating out there, but according to Tony Ferguson in our interview with him yesterday, Conor and Khabib can only run for so long. He understands that, he fully recognizes that Conor McGregor is an athlete and Conor will have the itch to compete again. But he believes Conor will look back on his past antics and be disappointed at himself. Said as a father, Conor will get a dad bod and he won't become well-rounded, he'll just become round, which I found fun. A little bit of a break here again, so let's look at some past UFC. UFC, of course, has been here a few times. 1 year exactly, or around there, when Robert Whittaker fought Yoel Romero, one of the craziest fights I've ever seen. Colby Covington, of course, won the interim title over RDA. Holly Holm defeated Megan Anderson. Tai Tuivasa was on this card too when he fought Andre Arlovski to decision, and who can forget Mike Jackson's decision win over CM Punk. Dana White was not happy about that. CM Punk, of course, hasn't fought. Mike Jackson hasn't fought again. Dana White said Mike Jackson's time in the UFC has come to an end after that performance. Curtis Blaydes finished Alistair Overeem. It was a wild night of fights. Even Anthony Smith finished, knocked out Rashad Evans. I believe that was Rashad Evans' last fight. And it was. So Rashad Evans' last fight, KO lost to Anthony Smith, who then went on to fight John Jones, and of course, most recently, submitted Alexander Gustafsson in Alexander Gustafsson's last fight. So Anthony Smith, something of a legend killer in the light heavyweight division. Even before that, we had Holly Holm fought Valentina Shevchenko in a bantamweight fight. Valentina Shevchenko won. Edson Barbosa defeated former Strikeforce champion and UFC title challenger Gilbert Melendez. Francis Ngannou, an unheralded Francis Ngannou, finished, I'm not even pronouncing his opponent's name, very early in the first round. That was his 3rd win in the UFC. And Felice Herrig fought Kylie Curran. Eddie Wineland was also on the card again. Kamaru Usman fought on the prelims, reigning welterweight champion. Back at UFC on Fox 20, July 23rd, 2016. So UFC likes to come back here in June, July. There was that string of time when they would come back in December or in January Our fighters were never really like that. It was hard to cut weight in Chicago in January. Of course, there was the UFC on Fox 6, which was headlined by Demetrius Johnson and John Dodson. One of the more exciting flyweight fights of Demetrius Johnson's reign. He defeated Demetrius Johnson. Demetrius Johnson defeated John Dodson. Glover Teixeira defeated Rampage Jackson. Anthony Pettis Glover Teixeira fought Rampage Jackson to a decision, but it was a pretty dominant decision. He would, of course, go on to fight John Jones for the light heavyweight title and come up short. Anthony Pettis finished Donald Cerrone with a body kick. That was after a little back and forth between the two leading up to that fight. That was at lightweight. Ricardo Lamas ripped Eric Coates' title aspirations away from him on that card. And Jimmy Rivera up next. He fights Peter Yan on the main card. No boxes for Jimmy Rivera, so he's asking for the towel. Doesn't seem like he's hurting though. He just doesn't have boxers on. Jimmy Rivera, coming off a loss to Aljamain Sterling, about to step on the scale. He's instructing them how to hold the towel.
$136.
136. For El Terra, Jimmy Rivera. They almost walked away with the towel. And we would have had
That's why I'm like, hey. All right, I need to get on the scale.
good thing that happened, because we would have had to pull the stream from YouTube. His only losses are to Marlon Moraes, who's fighting for the championship in the main event. And Donald Cerrone, standing off to the side, as I was just made aware of. Doesn't look like the happiest fella. Completely covered in his sweatsuit. He has made it known making 155 is absolutely miserable. Was not in the best spirits yesterday at media day.
Cowboy at lightweight.
The last 5 pounds have always been brutal for Cowboy Cerrone as he slowly makes his way to the scales. Does not look in the best mood.
$155.5.
155.5 for Donald Cowboy Cerrone. I saw a lot of the comment section, the live comments saying Donald Cerrone would be the one to miss weight, but he hit it. He's on the money. He's looking to go make it 3-0 since dropping back to lightweight. Of course, a dominant run, and he sighs a deep sigh of relief. He, of course, had a tremendous run of lightweight before he came up short to then champion Rafael Dos Anjos in their main event fight. I believe it was the Orlando card in December. I'm just correct, as I am given the nod of approval. Made the jump up to welterweight. Told her I'm there for a while, fought a lot of tough competition, but decided it was time to drop back down to 155 and make a real run at the title. Made it known that if he was offered a fight for a title shot or a fight against Conor McGregor, he would take the title fight. He said the title fight's the last goal he needs to achieve. He already holds the record for most finishes, knockdowns, wins, head kick, everything. Only wants the title. Kaylin Chukagian up next. She fights Joanne Calderwood on the very first fight of the night. Her last fight was to Jessica. She came up short to Jessica Eye, which ended up being a #1 contender fight, as Jessica Eye is now fighting for the championship in the main event as she hits the scale.
$126.
126 for blonde fighter Katlyn Chukagian. I asked Joanne Calderwood, where does Katlyn Chukagian shine? when you watch her tape. And she goes, and her response was, she shines, her blonde hair shines, and she's also a good fighter. Good answer, good answer. Good turnout for Catlin in the back. I don't see anyone coming up next. We might have a little bit of a break again, because I'm trying to get some sort of signal. Looks like we have another little bit of a break. So, who do we have left to weigh in? As I try and pull my notes out. We're still waiting on Jessica I, Pedro Munoz. I believe that's it. Blagor Ivanov. So 3 fights. But there shouldn't be any issues of Blagor Ivanov making weight. He's a heavyweight.
He has to wake up and show up.
That's true. You might hear Casey Leiden chiming in. I mean, Alistair Overeem was fined, what, like $500 for showing up 5 minutes late?
Well, I mean, $500 is better than the fight not happening. He actually missed the weigh-ins. He just missed the weigh-ins.
It's true. He just showed up and he's just like, all right, I'm here. Stepped on the scale and made weight. But he showed up, well, it was like 10 minutes late. So we're waiting on Jessica Evil Eye, Blagor Ivanov, and Pedro Munoz. But it's been moving along. So Casey, I'll ask you a question. Last year, UFC 225, if he can even hear me, his headphones are on. Last year at 225, we had all decisions on the main card.
But those are fine. I like those.
But they were all great fights. What do you say of Saturday's or tomorrow's fight? Is there going to be another all-decision main card?
Main card?
You know where
We have a heavyweight fight. We got Cowboy and Tony.
You know what? It's gonna end up being the heavyweight fight. Watch that one go to decision.
See that? They're selling t-shirts.
As hungry young reporter Mark Raimondi makes his way behind me. Former co-worker. He left to some newsletter called ESPN.
Some local blog based out of the East Coast.
No, dude, they're not even on the internet yet. There's still a bi-weekly newsletter. Let's take a look at the just taking a quick peek at the comment section. Yeah, only 3 fighters left. Blagor Ivanov, Pedro Munoz, and Jessica I. I see a lot of people asking. So I apologize for any lag that we're seeing. So, but we'll go back to some fun UFC Chicago facts. We left on the Dotson-Demetrius fight. And even before that, we had another Fox card. Or was that before? Nope, it was after. I always get these two. UFC on Fox 6 was Johnson versus Dotson. UFC on Fox 10, which was January 2014, was headlined by Benson Henderson and Josh Thompson. I believe Josh Thompson was supposed to fight Anthony Pettis. Before Anthony Pettis pulled out, I'm also getting a nod. Came up short to Benson Henderson, a narrow split decision. Was not happy with that. Stipe Miocic's at the time, he was a future UFC heavyweight champion. Of course, now he's a former UFC heavyweight champion. Fought Gabriel Gonzaga to a decision. Donald Cerrone decapitated Adriano Martins with a violent head kick. Jeremy Stevens fought Darren Elkins to a decision. And then even on that prelim card, Alex Caceres, Eddie Wineland, Darren Cruikshanks all picking up. Nikita Krylov with a head kick win at heavyweight on the very first fight of the night. So, fun times from the UFC's Fox era, and even dating back farther. UFC on Fox 9 was in Rosemont, Illinois, at the Allstate Arena, headlined by, you guessed it, Anderson Silva versus Patrick Cote. Patrick Cote, of course, got a pretty bad knee injury in that fight, but even up to then, it wasn't the most exciting fight. Anderson Silva was a little disappointed in the freak ending. But I think most people remember two things outside of that from that fight card, and that's Thiago Alves just using and abusing Josh Koscheck's legs with those kicks. I mean, my legs hurt from watching the fight. I limped away, and then I believe later on, that was his first fight. His very next fight, he fought George St. Pierre at UFC 100 and came up short for the UFC Welterweight Championship. So, fought Josh Koscheck to a dominant decision win. And then ended up fighting George St. Pierre next. And then also on that card, Junior Dos Santos' debut, which a lot of people don't remember, put Fabricio Verdum in the ground with a violent uppercut. Fabricio Verdum was of course had a pretty decent win streak. He had finishes over Gabriel Gonzaga and Brandon Vera, and then he fought this hungry young upstart Junior Dos Santos, and then ended up getting knocked out. And I remember vividly he came in Junior Dos Santos came in with such a high win that it was all down. I believed it would be all down from there. Like, how does he top that? But goes on to finish Stefan Struve, finishes Mirko Krokop, finishes Gilbert Ivel, finishes Gabriel Gonzaga, and then fights Roy Nelson to a decision. But this was back when Roy Nelson's chin was still made of granite. Just battered Shane Carwin's face in their fight. I remember that fight. Shane Carwin's wife was in the front row, and she had to turn away from watching that. And then he would, of course, go on to knock out Cain Velasquez in 64 seconds to win the heavyweight championship of the world on the very first Fox card. And all of that started at UFC 90 in Rosemont, Illinois, not Chicago. So, rich history of MMA in the Chicago area. Bellator, of course, was here early last month when Patricio Pitbull, Henry Cejudo's fight-ready MMA teammate, knocked out Michael Chandler to win the lightweight championship. He became to become the reigning featherweight and lightweight champion. Champ. His teammate and training partner, Henry Cejudo, is of course looking to do that against Marlon Moraes to become a champ. In the main event of tomorrow's card, can he join his teammate? As head coach Captain Eric said, it's not if, it's when Henry Cejudo becomes a dual champ. So you let me know who you think is going to win. A lot of the bantamweights, as I said, believe Marlon winning is more beneficial for the division, as the flyweight champion winning leaves a lot of questions up in the air for both weight classes. Will he drop back down, put the bantamweight division on hold? Will he remain at bantamweight and the division folds into the bantamweight, and the flyweight division folds into the bantamweight division? It's a lot of questions up in the air, and even Henry Cejudo says he'll take it fight by fight. He is a prize fighter after all, he said. So if there's another big fight out there that interests him, you know he's going to go for them. And if he's the champion of two weight classes, and I don't know if you've heard this, he is an Olympic gold medalist.
Really?
Yeah.
I didn't know this.
I've heard that once or
When
twice.
did he win the Olympic gold medal?
I believe 2008.
Really?
Yeah, he might have been wearing it at the media day, so.
It's really promotional malpractice if they haven't talked about it.
Yeah, you'd think they would have mentioned it. Or you know who's really shooting himself in the foot is Henry Cejudo. I mean, I know he doesn't like to talk about it, he doesn't like to bring it up, he definitely doesn't like to wear it.
I do like the fact that he's highlighting the royalty and illusionists.
Yeah, that was a little weird. I like how you used illusionist, though. Respect. Put some respect on the world of illusionists. We're still waiting on Pedro Munoz, Jessica, and Blago Ivanov. And of course, we're still waiting on Jessica, one half of the women's flyweight fight in the co-main event. Someone asked, Cowboy did not miss weight, someone just asked that. He came in looking very miserable, hit the mark, took a big sigh of relief and walked off the stage, walked off the scale. So No one has missed weight yet. Actually, a lot of fighters have come in underweight. 134 for Marlon, 134 for Aljamain.
It's a light scale. That's why.
It's a light scale, as our cameraman Casey Lyden points out.
Everyone shows up 1 pound under. Yeah.
Someone says, I am worried for Tony. That switch kick from Cerrone is deadly. Yeah, you're not wrong. You're not wrong. But 3 rounds, man. He said it himself. Cowboy said himself he's a slow starter, and he gets better as the fight drags on, which is why he excels in 5-round fights. Tony Ferguson is a slow starter too, but as Tony himself, his exact words were, this is gone in 60 seconds, and you can't start slow against him. I was like, I believe you. Someone says, guys, please talk about Khabib versus Poirier. Yeah, that fight's happening in September, Abu Dhabi. The winner of Tony Cowboy will most likely, I mean, no one's confirmed it, but I'm assuming that's the only fight. I mean, Tony and Khabib has been scheduled to fight 4 or 5 times. I'm gonna put it out there that it's never gonna happen because I'm a big believer in reverse psychology. If you don't believe it will happen, it will most likely happen. If you say it will happen, it won't happen. So it will never happen. We'll never see Cowboy. We'll never see Tony versus Khabib. It was the MMA fight gods punishing us for something that they were both on UFC 229 and they didn't fight each other. It was absolutely brutal. But Conor was also scheduled to fight against Khabib once. I believe it was 187. And Khabib pulled out and Donald Cerrone ended up breaking John Medesi's jaw in that fight. So both have had fights fall out with Khabib. Dustin Poirier has been on a tear. He defeated Max Holloway, the reigning featherweight champion, in their interim lightweight title fight. Oh, there's some movement, but I don't see if anyone's coming. Nope. No, I will not shut my mic off. Someone asks us who else needs to weigh in. We're still waiting on Pedro Munoz, Blagoy Ivanov, and Jessica Ai. So we're still waiting on one half of the women's flyweight title fight. Blagoy Ivanov is fighting Tai Tuivasa. Pedro Munoz is fighting Aljamain Sterling. Do I think the magic of Tony versus Khabib will be lost if either of them lose? I mean, it won't help if either of them lose. I mean, that was kind of the whole thing. Khabib is undefeated. Tony has the longest win streak in lightweight history. What do you think, Casey?
What was the question?
Will the magic of Tony versus Khabib wear off if either of them lose before they fight? Will the luster of that potential fight wear off if either of them lose before they end up fighting each other?
Well, of course, because they were fighting for the title. They were going to be fighting for the title.
Yes, I said it's definitely not going to hurt. I would still watch that fight.
Yeah.
But it's not going to help if either of them loses. It's still an unbelievable fight, but the whole thing was longest win streak versus undefeated champion. They were not all of their fights that fall apart were for titles, so that was only the most
recently. But they were still on their win streaks and undefeated at the time.
Yes.
Well, yeah. So of course.
Yeah, of course. That's the whole. A lot of our old coworker Sean El-Shadi says that the winner of that fight between Tony and Khabib should be the greatest lightweight ever. Do you agree?
He's already put Ferguson as the greatest lightweight ever.
If he beats Khabib, he would consider Tony.
He can take those hot takes to the Athletic.
Yeah. What is the Athletic? Another newsletter? Yeah. Yes, Jessica I has not weighed in yet. Yes, I am the one with the friendly hair, according to Mike Perry. I'll never live that down, and I don't have a problem with that. Marlon did weigh in. 134. Our main event is official. Both Henry Cerrito and Marlon Moraes both made weight. So the vacant bantamweight title fight in tomorrow's main event is a go. Cowboy and Tony made weight. No one has missed weight yet. We're only waiting on Jessica Ai, Blagoy Ivanov, and Pedro Munoz. Cowboy weighed in at 155.5. Adesanya versus Whitaker, it's obviously not official, but one would have to assume it would be on the October pay-per-view in Sydney. It's not been confirmed, but one would assume, and I would imagine Alexander Volkanovski would fight possibly in the co-main event. He's been on obviously a tear. He just beat Jose Aldo. He believed he should have fought for the featherweight championship next. He did get that blood infection coming back from Brazil, so Frank Edgar is fighting Max Holloway, UFC 240 in Edmonton. Is that quick turnaround though, Casey? If Frankie versus Max is in end of July, I would imagine the UFC would want one of them to fight Alexander Volkanovski on the co-main event of that Sydney card. Is that too quick of a turnaround, July to October?
No, not at all.
For Max, can't wait though.
It really just depends how the fight goes.
Yeah, that's a good point. If it's a fight of the year and both people get 6-month suspensions, like obviously that can't happen. But one would imagine the UFC would want Volkanovski in that card.
You would imagine. Or, yeah. That would seem the most logical.
Yeah. Someone goes, bring back Sean McCorkle. All right, I'm into it. How's the co-main going? Well, we're still waiting on Jessica Ai to weigh in, so technically the co-main event is not official for the flyweight title yet. Valentina did her part. We're just waiting on Jessica Evil Ai. A lot of people picking Frankie Edgar to beat Max Holloway at UFC 240. I don't know how easy that is, but Max is coming off a pretty rough loss to Dustin, 5-round war, one of the better title fights I've seen, and might not even be the best title fight on that card. Adesanya, Kelvin Gastelum was also on that card, which I left that. I know the John Jones Gustin fight is great, Romero Whitaker is great. That title fight between Israel Adesanya and Kelvin Gastelum is way up there for best title fights I've ever seen. Someone asked, if I misses weight or can't fight, would JoJo or Katlyn Chookagian get the bump up? I obviously don't know, but if I would have to pick one, I would assume it's JoJo. She is on the win streak.
Did JoJo come in at 125? She came in at 125.
That is a good question. Casey Lyden bring up a very good point. As I check my notes, JoJo Calder at 125. So
I bet there's a reason for that.
Yep. Katlyn Chookagian.
She didn't cut that extra pound for
Katlyn Chookagian 126. So if someone gets the bump up, it has to be Joanne Calderwood. I would imagine it would be her anyway. She's on the win streak. Jessica has a win over Katlyn Chookagian. Joanne Calderwood told us that with a win tomorrow night, she fully expects to fight for the title after. So if she knows something we don't know, and she gets the bump up to the co-main event, Valentina Shevchenko versus Joanne Calderwood is a great fight. Jessica Ai versus Valentina is great. For any fight Valentina I'm into. She's one of the more high-level martial artists in all the UFC, not just male or female. Jessica Ai did wear a bulletproof vest to media day yesterday. Valentina's nickname was, of course, Bullet. And when they stared off, Valentina was stone cold, had no emotion. I asked her, what'd you make of the bulletproof vest? And her response was, it won't help her. And I was like, well, that's one of the most metal things I've ever heard. Who is the tallest fighter in the UFC? I would imagine it was Stephen Struve before he retired.
Who's the shortest fighter?
That's a good question. I don't honestly know off the top of my head.
Somebody more in the straw weights.
Tallest is Francis Ngannou's pretty tall. John Jones is pretty tall. Johnny, what is it? Okay, a little bit of movement. Johnny Walker is what, 6'5"? 6'6"? So he's probably way up there. So it's a lot of tall light heavyweights and heavyweights. Oh, and Blagoy Ivanov is up. I see him off to the side. Blagoy, Ivanov, and Pedro Munoz are there, so it looks like maybe they want to bust together. Just waiting on Jessica Eye after these two. So Blagoy, Ivanov, about to hit the scale. Coming off a win over Ben Rothwell. Looks a lot of breath for some reason.
$251.
251. For Bulgaria's own Blagoy Ivanov, former World Series of Fighting heavyweight champion. Bellator Season 10 heavyweight runner-up. You don't see many of those on people's resumes these days. He's defended his title, World Series of Fighting title 3 times. Pedro Munoz up next. Takes on Aljamain Sterling on the prelims, which we'll talk about in a second. I'd love to hear everyone's opinions on that.
$135.5.
135.5 for Pedro Munoz. There's a lot of talk in that Pedro Munoz and Aljamain Sterling are fully convinced that the winner of their fight will be declared the #1 contender for the bantamweight championship of the world. Looking at the rankings, it would make sense. They're right there at the top. They're ranked right above and below each other. Cody Garbrandt obviously has a knockout loss to Pedro Munoz. So logic would dictate that the winner of their fight would be the next #1 contender at 135 pounds. But they're on the prelim card, while another bantamweight fight between Peter Yan and Jim Rivera is on the pay-per-view main card. Peter Yan is, of course, one of the hotter prospects in the division. Declares that he wants to be the next Russian champion. Very charismatic individual. Jim Rivera has a loss to Aljamain Sterling in his most recent fight, and he's fighting above him on the card. Pedro Munoz did not care. He's like, I'll fight wherever. Peter Yan said maybe the UFC wants to maybe push him a little. He looked right into the camera and said, I will fight for the UFC championship next after this. So for those of you in the comment section, we're still waiting on Jessica Eye. There's about an hour left?
No, 3 hours left.
3 hours left, technically, says Casey Ladder. And that's
We could be waiting for Jessica for 3 hours.
because she gets time, right? Correct? So she can weigh in between.
She's just to show up, miss weight, get cleared to cut more weight, and then we have 2 more hours.
That's what happened to Yoel Romero last year, correct? And then
yeah.
something like that. And there was that debacle where he was they told him to stop cutting.
0.2, he was like 0.2.
Yeah.
Now with that beam scale, there's no way you miss weight by 0.2. You can't see 0.2 of that.
Yes.
So that's why fighters love the beam scale.
Yeah. Yeah. So what would the time cutoff be to?
So 1 o'clock.
1 o'clock Central Time would be the official cutoff time. So she can weigh in up to 11 o'clock. Yeah, Jessica, yeah, a lot of people asking, weigh-ins are over. Nope, we're still waiting on Jessica Eye. She's the last fighter to weigh in. So technically, the co-main event for the flyweight championship is not official. What time does main card start tomorrow? Main card starts at 10 p.m. Eastern Time. So for those asking, we could be here for 3 hours. So she can weigh up till 10 o'clock. That's when.
She has to but before 11 o'clock, which is in an hour,
Yes.
she has to show up. At least show up, get cleared by medical team to cut more weight if she misses weight.
So if she shows up by 11 o'clock, misses weight for whatever reason, and is medically cleared to continue to cut weight, she'll get 2 more hours to make weight. So theoretically, we could be here, but she has to show up sometime in the next hour.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Jessica will hopefully be here.
But I'm not even sure she has to come out here for a public weight.
That's
She
very
might be able
true.
to just go back there and get cleared backstage.
Yes. That is also a good point.
I'm not
But
100% sure, but the point is she has to get cleared to get those 2 more hours. But yeah, this is exciting. 3 more hours to talk about Chicago.
3 more hours to talk about Chicago. I've already talked about every single. What's your biggest memory from a Chicago card in the UFC?
Chicago card. The very first UFC on Fox card. The second UFC on Fox card was here.
The second one? Oh, that's right. That's
was,
Rashad Evans and Phil Davis. Yeah, and Chael Sonnen fought Bisping.
And Weidman fought
Maya.
Late notice Weidman.
Very late notice.
Apparently lost like 200 pounds in 4 hours, and his body was covered in like static electricity, he claimed, and he almost died a million times.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
And then was that Damian Maya's last fight at middleweight? I would imagine so.
But my memory is though, backstage I got to meet the giant Fox robot, take a photo of the Fox robot.
So you're just living your best life.
Yeah, well my life went downhill after that.
Yeah.
Everything.
And bingo bango, Maya's last fight at middleweight was against Chris Weidman. You say your life's been downhill since meeting the robot?
Yeah.
Did you not just get married?
Yeah, but I also met the robot.
That's fair.
Did you not hear me? Did you not hear the first word?
I did.
I met the Fox robot.
I met the Fox.
Cletus. Or when he's at MMA events, he's called Beatus.
Is that a real thing?
Yes, it's a real thing.
So what you're saying is you like the pacing of the ESPN cards, but it's still not up to par with the Fox era because there's no Beatus.
I haven't seen the ESPN robot.
ESPN, do you have a robot?
Yeah, Marco Raimondi. Does ESPN have a robot like Fox does? Wow.
That was a really good answer, Mark Raimondi. His answer was
Marco
you're
Raimondi
looking at him.
Marco Raimondi, ESPN robot.
He runs off of coffee and professional wrestling. Oh. Also on that card, Cub Swanson. 3 more hours.
This is all you need to give her this division.
3 more hours. For title fight.
You think it's like close? You think she's
Well, she's not here right now. She's not here right now. I mean,
spots up?
the weigh-ins are at 9 o'clock. The weigh-ins are in that 2-hour break, 2-hour windows, right? It's here. And like somehow
People asking for who are the undefeated fighters on the UFC roster. We have a few. We have Israel Adesanya is, of course, 17-0. Khabib Nurmagomedov 27-0. Funky Ben Askren 19-0. Does have no contest though to Luis Santos. And then there are a lot of fighters that Gregor Gillespie, of course. New York's own Gregor Gillespie, 13-0. A lot of people forget about him. He's so, we're talking about undefeated fighters in the UFC.
Did you see his recent Instagram post?
Was it about fishing?
No. Actually, we finally learned something very interesting about him. Read one of his last posts. I was like, oh, this is a real story on.
Gregor Gillespie. This one?
Let me see.
The internet is rough here, guys. Bear with us. Well, as we wait for his Instagram page to load. Where's Paulo Costa's undefeated, Jack Shore, Dominic Reyes. It's a lot. Sugar Sean O'Malley. Caitlin Vieira, undefeated, 10-0. Jim Crute. There's a lot of fighters on the UFC that are undefeated. A lot of fighters that I'm not going to try and pronounce their last names. Mackenzie Dern is undefeated. Aspen Ladd.
At multiple weight classes.
Tatiana Suarez. Felicia Spencer, featherweight contender.
Fighting.
Chris Cyborg.
Is that official?
Yes. The UFC put out a graphic and everything.
Oh, if it's a graphic, then
Yeah.
it's happening.
So there are lots of undefeated UFC fighters. There's also, over in Bellator, AJ McKee, undefeated. Gregor Gillespie, all right, what do we got? Which one?
Which one? This one.
This one, Gregor Gillespie. 9 years clean today sober as of a week ago. So that is a story that no one's talking about. Shared a picture of his birthday, November 13th, 2009. Quote, that was the beginning of the end. The night I returned to drinking after a 10-day dry period to prove everyone that I didn't have a problem. But as of 1 week ago, he is 9 years clean. Gregor Gillespie. That is, I did not know that. I did not notice that. Good for Gregor the Gift Gillespie. So always good to see. But he is an undefeated fighter, doesn't have a fight lined up. More one of the under-the-radar fighters in lightweight. I would love to see him versus Charles Oliveira next, but that's just my personal opinion. A lot of people have questions over how Gregor Gillespie will do against someone with elite level grappling because he has such dominant wrestling, and a lot of people wonder how Charles Oliveira would fare against an elite level wrestler, and there is always that rivalry of BJJ versus wrestling that plays into this. Chris Cyborg did lose her first fight, so she's not undefeated. She also lost her last fight. Alexander K. Lee from our site. Viviana Pereira is the smallest fighter, he believes.
I thought she's still in the UFC.
Let's find out with the power of Google. She is
She's
5.
fighting on Invicta tonight. She missed weight too.
She is fighting in Invicta. Correct. So she's not in the UFC, but she's 5 feet. So I would imagine she would be the smallest.
And but she cut to 105. She's cutting to atom weight.
Yeah, she's cutting to atom weight, which would, Carla Esparza's got to be there for one of the smaller fighters on the roster.
Her last UFC loss was to someone fighting tonight.
Yes, her last fight, both of them. Her last 2 losses in the UFC to Xiaonan and Tatiana Suarez were her last 2 losses, both decisions, in Singapore and in Virginia. So rough couple of fights.
Tonight she's fighting the undefeated Alicia Zappatelli.
And tonight she is fighting the undefeated Alicia Zappatelli. She missed weight though, correct? She missed weight.
By a pound and a half.
Pound and a half.
Atom weight, not straw weight.
Yes, for atom weight. She's trying to cut down to 105. Jon Lineker is a small fighter, but he's a thick fighter. He's used to fight at flyweight and missed weight a few times, so he jumped back up to bantamweight. Someone goes, can we get just an A side of Casey and Esther?
Wait, so now you've only been A-side for like 2 weeks, and they're already kicking you out?
I guess. Someone says, I'll bring a mic.
No one says A-side has to be only 2 people.
Hey, it's not, man. It's me, a co-host, and the rest of the world watching. It's a lot of
Are they
co-hosts.
really watching?
Yes. They're watching and pointing.
And laughing.
Esther Lynn rocks. We got a couple comments from that. She says cool and gives the thumbs up.
The greatest rock band ever comes from Chicago. This local band called Los Cudos.
That's the greatest rock band?
Los Cudos. Google them.
Well, there you have it, folks. Put it on the record, the greatest rock band of all time, according to
Cudos.
Casey Lineker, Los Cudos.
Changed my life.
In a good way or a bad way?
The best way.
In the best way. Can't say I've ever listened to them.
Some other very good bands that were influential growing up from Chicago, the Chicago area. Cap and Jazz, an emo band from the Chicago suburbs.
Sick.
It's from Chicago. Slapstick. I always like Slapstick. One of the better ska punk bands that were around.
Who's the most overrated band from
Chicago?
Yeah.
Chicago from Chicago?
Who?
Chicago.
Chicago's the most. I see what you did there.
No, I love Chicago. I love me some soft rock.
Sean Al Shady. That's not very nice. Esther Lynn is amazing. Her photos are iconic. So, someone's asking what was Carolina's weight. Her weight was 116. So, everyone has made weight. We were just waiting on Jessica I. So, her co-main event title fighting against Valentina Shevchenko is not technically official yet until she hits the scale to be 115 or below.
But if for some reason Jessica I does not make the scale, JoJo Carterwood did weigh in at championship weight.
So she would be eligible to fight for the title.
Now, there's a lot of other things in play
Yes.
there, but she would be.
Someone says if the winner of Habib Dustin ends up fighting GSP, who does the winner of Cowboy Tony fight? I would imagine Conor, or maybe the loser of Habib Dustin.
The winner from, I forgot, the second best man ever, Charles Bronson.
How many
Chicago.
people are named Charles Bronson in the world? So many.
The band Charles,
Okay.
who Chad Dundas used to be a member of.
There you go.
If you want your ears to bleed right now, Google some Charles Bronson, the band, and it would be amazing.
Don't do that to our audience. Does Mike Perry still dislike you, Jose? I don't know. I do not know. I believe he was cutting weight, so I obviously took issue with my question. I absolutely don't hold it against him. I bet he doesn't even remember it. Who fills in for I if she doesn't fight? We both are under the assumption it would be Joanne Calderwood because she did make championship weight at 125. She is a flyweight. She's fighting on the first fight of the night against Katlyn Chookagian, but there's obviously a lot of other things that have to be worked out, but our assumption is it would be Joanne Calderwood. She's the only other women's flyweight that made 125, so it would have to be her.
For it to be a championship.
Yeah,
obviously.
like they could go with Katlyn Chookagian, but it wouldn't be a title fight.
Right.
Who's JoJo? Joanne Calderwood. 2-fight win streak at flyweight. She's also one of even if Katlyn had made weight, Joanne Calderwood would most likely be the most logical. Someone asking me, how's the food in Chicago? I mean,
Pizza.
so I've had pizza almost every time I've been in Chicago. I'm a really big Pequod's fan. I dream about that place, but I have not been back this time.
Go to Giordano's.
See, everyone says Giordano's, Lou Malnati's, all that. I get Lou Malnati's is, well, there's like a debate, right? I'm speaking with what is your name for our audience?
Steve Milhausen from the Sporting News.
From the Sporting News, Chicago native.
Yes.
So he's giving me some pizza advice. I've been to Giordano's and Lou Malnati's. I like Giordano's better, but Pequod's to me is.
That's okay. That's.
I like that.
It's like the mid card.
I also really like supporting, like non-chains.
Why? Why not go?
You gotta
if you like the Dal de la Creme, why not just go with Giordano's?
It's fine. There's also because of Giordano's everyone. I gotta support the mom and pop shops, man. The backbone of this world.
So you like?
I don't want to feed the beast.
So you like feeding Brock Lesnar? Brock Lesnar
Brock
wrestles this
Lesnar.
morning.
Is he?
This
Oh,
afternoon?
it's Super Showdown. That's
Yeah, Super
right.
Showdown. But nah, come on. You have to go.
They're both. I like Giordano's a lot, but if I have one day in Chicago to get pizza, I'm gonna go to Pequod's.
I'm very disappointed.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry for your loss. Well, as someone who was around when pizza was first made, tell me about it.
You know, you act like I am a veteran of like World War II. It was the 75th anniversary of
That's
D-Day
true. It
yesterday.
is very true.
I am not that old. But as an older gentleman compared to, how old are you? 18?
something like that.
You look 18.
I'm 28.
How'd you get that hair, by the way?
How did I get this hair?
That hair is amazing.
Hey,
I'm
man.
very jealous.
It happens. It's just natural.
What do you put in there? Mousse, gel, cucumber juice?
I'm a big fan of
coconut oil?
Hans de Foucault claymation.
I have no idea what
Yeah,
that is.
that's how. See, we're still waiting on Jessica though. I see a lot of people asking, why is CM Punk not on this card? He's here. Like he was doing, he was interviewing a lot of fighters at Media Day, so he is in the building.
Do you want to? Should he fight? Even if he doesn't fight in the UFC, should he fight? Period.
It's up to him. I never like telling fighters to stop fighting, especially because it's not like he was knocked out. He's still grappling. He still likes training. If he wants to go fight in LFA, I mean, he said if he gets cut, he's still going to fight.
There's no reason for him to fight.
There's no reason for him to
He's a really good
fight.
commentator.
There's no reason for him to fight. He's a phenomenal commentator. He's a good interviewer. He just likes him, man.
I think he just needs to retire. Not many guys can say they've fought, not just in MMA, but fighting in the premier MMA organization. He got to do it twice. He got to live out a dream that many people would love to have.
It's very true, and more people asking. We could be here for another 3 hours. Jessica has to at least step on a scale before 11. Whether that's the one in front of us or the one backstage, we don't know. But if she misses weight for whatever reason, she will have an extra 2 hours to make weight. So we could theoretically be here for another 3 hours waiting for Jessica. Correct, Casey?
Yes, and there's no way your laptop is gonna last
Nope.
3 more hours.
Nope. As they point out, I was dumb and forgot my computer charger. Someone says, Jose, use pizza grease in your hair. All right.
Because you're in Chicago.
I guess. For those of you asking, was Casey speaking with me a minute ago? Our illustrious cameraman extraordinaire. Or as Cody Rhodes once said, that's a man with a mustache.
Me and Cody got into it.
Into it, like...
He threw a table at me, and then I
That's
backed
very
and
true.
then I ran away.
That's very true. So, you may know him as Casey Leydon cameraman. We know him as Casey Leydon, public enemy #1.
And friend.
And friend. It's a man with a mustache. There's almost no movement. People asking, yes, everyone has made weight. We are just waiting on Jessica I. The guy who's talking, I like you, sir. Thanks. I appreciate you. The man with the hat is not talking. That would be the iconic and voluptuous Chuck Mendenhall. But he is not here. When is Red Velvet weighing in? I would love if Red Velvet was here to keep everyone entertained. She was the star of Embedded, alongside Tide Tuivasa. All right, here's an interesting question. Who are your early picks for performance bonuses in Fight of the Night?
I expect Cerrito to get a performance bonus.
Really? Why? Oh, like a performance or like?
Is that what you're asking?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, everything always weighs heavy toward the top of the card, no
Yes.
matter what.
So you think Henry's gonna win?
Yeah. Oh no,
Okay.
I say Cerrito. Oh man,
Yeah.
I messed up. I'm sorry.
I was gonna say all week you've been picking Marlon
Sorry.
to win.
Marlon will get a performance bonus.
Okay.
I was picturing Cerrito catching a head kick, so my head.
So you're picking Marlon to get a performance. Who's your other performance? I think the heavyweight fight might have it. There's usually violent knockouts in heavyweight.
Those two guys don't knock each other out. Those guys might go for fight of the night, but I don't.
That
see
is true.
I don't see one of those guys just dominating the other guy.
That is true.
But I have no idea how they measure performance tonight.
Yeah, Josh Emmett didn't get that for that when he flatlined Michael Johnson.
I didn't think he deserved it.
Interesting, hot take.
I thought the person who got on that card, I can't remember that card exactly, but because he was losing the first 2 rounds.
Yes.
And
Some other, like, under the radar, Aljamain Sterling is always good for an interesting submission. Cerrone Ferguson, I think, is everyone's pick for fight of the night. You weren't that hyped on that fight, but
no. It's obviously a very high level fight, but I'm just not doing backflips for that
correct.
fight. Like,
So,
it's like, okay, good fight.
I think Aljamain's always dangerous for just a sneaky submission win. He could get performance tonight.
But you think Sterling will submit Munoz? That'd be exciting.
Could that would be nice. Well, not like that would be like a nice development to see another crazy submission. I always love those. But that Pedro Munoz is coming off that violent KO of Cody Garbrandt, so he might have confidence in his hands in this fight. I think my picks would be.
I suspect all the awards, extra checks are going to come from the pay-per-view card.
Yes.
I think if Suarez wins, it won't be a performance type of.
Just be like
check. It'll be a dominating.
like a drowning performance, like her fight against Carla.
Man, people, I don't know. I don't understand why Nina is such an underdog. Maybe I'm going to be way
Angela
off.
Hill did say when we spoke to her that she believes Nina Ansaroff has a better chance of beating Jessica Andrade than Tatiana Suarez. Because
Link gives Andrade problems.
Yes.
Striking.
As Joanna showed that she stayed on the outside and kind of moved and kept Andrade at bay. And Rose was doing that too before she got dropped on her head and did great. So Angela Hill gives Nina Ansaroff the edge over Andrade when compared to Tatiana Suarez. We didn't get a chance to speak to Tatiana though. Yes, it is I, Jose Youngs, for those asking. Everyone has made a weight. Everyone has made a weight. We are only waiting on Jessica. She's the last person to weigh in. Ooh, here's an interesting question. This is going for you since you've been to obviously more events than myself. You've been doing this for how long?
I think officially just way too long.
What is a state?
Over a decade.
What state would you like to see the Octagon go to that hasn't had a UFC event yet?
Oh, I want to go to Montana.
Montana.
Because I want to visit Ben in the winter.
And Chad.
Yeah. I want to do some ice fishing. I don't actually care about the actual fighting.
I am
Montana.
obviously biased to Rhode Island.
Alaska? I want to go to Alaska.
I'm biased to Rhode Island because they've not had a UFC event.
Is the cage actually bigger than Rhode Island?
Hey man,
It's a size show.
let's just stick a bunch of flyweights on the cards. Make them look bigger. New Mexico has had a UFC card. That was the Albuquerque card.
That had what everyone calls the worst UFC
They were
robbery ever.
with Diego Sanchez over Ross Pearson. And who's the main event? Was it Benson Henderson?
Havilov.
Was it Havilov? And then he fought RDA in Tulsa?
Havilov winning until he just basically gassed out.
And then Benson lost Dos Anjos in Tulsa, correct? Because I always get those two cards mixed up because they were so close together.
He did not lose in Albuquerque. I don't know where Benson lost the title, but
He lost RD. I think it was in Tulsa.
yeah.
I always get those two from you.
Abilab and Benson wasn't for the title though. I think it was after then. Maybe that was after.
Yeah,
But
this
it
was when Anthony Pettis and Gilbert were doing tough because Anthony got hurt. So Benson Henderson wanted to fight all of the whoever would be fighting for the title. I want to fight. So I'll clean up all the contenders so I can get my fight against my title fight back.
Yeah, people forget Abilab was only one fight away from fighting for that title.
I mean, his UFC debut when I can't remember who he fought. He dropped that guy in his head. It's one of the more violent debuts I've ever seen. So, wraps in 6? Question mark.
Basketballs?
Yeah, basketballs.
Sure. Why not?
How long does I have to make weight? She has theoretically up to, what, 1?
1 o'clock.
1 o'clock p.m.
90
Central
more
Time.
minutes.
90 more minutes, but she has to at least step on a scale by 11. She's the last one.
And this is awesome because every commission makes its own rules, but this is going in about stepping on the scale at least. This is going under the assumption that they're going to follow kind of the same protocol that any other commission has. But
So Montana is your pick for where you want the octagon to go? Not for any fight reasons, just want to ice fish?
yeah, I want to see Ben Folks. I don't see him. He doesn't travel that much, so it'll be good to see my former colleague,
Yeah.
Folks, and Chad. Maybe get on their podcast and make fun of them.
Is there a replacement if I doesn't make weight? We are both under the assumption that it would be Joanne Calderwood, but obviously nothing's official. She's the only other women's flyweight that has made championship weight. She fights on the first fight of the night against Callum Chukagian, but I think she would make the most sense anyway. She's on a bit of a win streak. She's popular. I think it would be kind of a fun stylistic match, Muay Thai versus Muay Thai inside the octagon. So we're just waiting on them. Just waiting on her. Someone says, Casey, you're tripping, Dubs in 7.
Oh no, you're tripping, bro.
Listen,
You think you know Sprots Ball more than me?
what did you call it?
Sprots Ball?
Someone goes, UFC in Hawaii, question mark?
Oh, I don't need that. I just go see Bellator events in Hawaii.
It would be pretty interesting to see Max Holloway fight in Hawaii.
Blaisdell
Be-
is too small.
It's not too small.
And it's old.
So?
The infrastructure is too old.
Esterlin chiming in saying the infrastructure of Hawaii might be too old to hold a UFC.
Blaisdell Arena.
The Blaisdell
The
Arena,
only other thing
okay.
is Aloha Stadium, and that's too big.
It's good points. They have an arena. The arena they have is too small, and the only one bigger is way too big.
Right, and it's outdoor, and it rains all the time.
That Aloha Stadium is where the University of Hawaii plays football? Okay. So Esterlin with some useful information for a possible UFC in Hawaii card.
Too small. Blaisdell too small. Just do it.
Just do it.
I would actually, though, fighting in the rain, I'm sure that would be amusing.
It would make for good photos for you, Esther.
I love outdoor shows.
Someone asking again. Jessica I has not weighed in. She's the only one. She has
33 minutes to at least step on the
She has 30, but we don't know if she has to step on that scale or she could step on one in the back. So
I overheard that she was about 15 minutes out,
So
so.
Esterlin chiming in saying that she overheard 15 minutes out, correct? 1-5. Okay, so maybe we'll see Jessica I soon. So, Esther, question for you. Why do you hate Hawaii?
Why do I hate Hawaii? I love Hawaii.
She loves Hawaii. She was just giving a realistic and honest answer of why the UFC has not gone to Hawaii.
I don't think it's honest. Literally not honest.
I really love Hawaii. Last time we went for Bellator, I stayed like an extra 4 or 5 days. Stayed up in the mountains.
Well,
It's great.
I have never been
Bellator
there.
Hawaii was one of my best MMA work experiences.
You
I've
were
had.
telling me, and I actually want to ask you guys that because I was in a similar situation to you where it was in December, correct? And you were in beautiful Hawaii, and I was in the bitter cold Milwaukee.
Yes.
So similar but different.
Similar but different.
And you guys were at the Dublin card when Connor fought.
Yes.
How did those compare?
Oh,
Very, felt the same.
similar.
Felt very
Similar
similar.
environments.
Yes.
This one was more emotional. Like you looked around when Alima was walking out, and there were people crying.
Wow.
No one was crying when Connor walked out. They were excited.
Well, it's Ireland. They're an excited bunch of
Yeah,
individuals.
but
Yes.
people were like very emotional when they saw Alima walk out.
People asking for us to whisper like it used to be, and the only reason I'm not whispering is because there's no one weighing in. They like our whispering voices.
I think the Raptors are going to win the NBA Finals in 6 games.
Someone
It
asked.
sounds creepy now.
Someone says, if the Pro Bowl can sell out the Aloha Stadium, why can't Max?
Well, I guess he could. I'm just saying it's mostly because it's outdoors.
Yes, I think the Aloha Stadium is it being outdoors and the high chance of rain in Hawaii. While it would make for good photos and good memories, it's not the safest for fighting a 5-round championship fight in an octagon.
But if you want to be a real fucking fighter, you fight in the ring.
So you want to be a fighter? What did you say?
No. I don't want to do that. I don't want to twist my ankle.
We're just waiting on Jessica I for those asking.
I don't know how to count.
Someone asked, would the massive time difference play a big factor too?
No.
No, an emphatic no, says Casey.
We're going to Abu Dhabi. What are you talking about?
That is true.
Oh, for Hawaii? The time?
Yes.
No, because it's earlier. Actually, that would be awesome.
Yes.
Because we would be done working like at 4 in the afternoon.
So, for those asking me to whisper, I did whisper at the beginning. There's just no people weighing in. Esther's a little farther down the table from me, so I wanted to be able for her to hear me, and same thing for Casey. So I will whisper, just when people weigh in and we're not trying to fill time with fun UFC facts. Someone asked us to talk about Sugar Sean O'Malley, Zabit, and Crone. What do you want us to what specifically? No,
I want to see Crum back. What's going on?
no idea. Jessica is the last one to weigh in. People are still asking how many more people. Jessica I is the last one to weigh in. There is some movement in the back. People are looking. I don't know if she's here, but she's the only one that's left to weigh in. Everyone else has made weight. No one has missed weight.
Well, technically, no one can even miss weight yet. Like, not
Correct.
until-
Correct. Who is someone says, talk about some of your favorite quote-unquote young guns in the UFC. So I would imagine that's prospects. All right, pause that. Looks like we got movement. Jessica High is in the building. I see her. She's clapping. She's here. She's clapping. She's ready. Let's do this. Jessica I. Asking for the hoop. So she will weigh in.
Jessica, I.
In the hoop. She doesn't look overly exhausted. Here we are, Jessica I. Here we go.
125.
125 for Jessica Eye. She releases a shriek of excitement. So we are official, folks. Valentina Shevchenko versus Jessica Eye for the Women's Flyweight Championship is official for tomorrow's co-main event at UFC 238. To repeat, Jessica Eye has made weight, championship weight, at 125 pounds. Her title fight against Valentina Shevchenko is a go. Everyone has weighed in. No one has missed weight. Both title fights are official.
Go rehydrate. That's it, folks.
And that is a wrap from the UFC 238 weigh-ins. I've been your host, Jose Youngs. I hope you enjoyed this, what is it, 90-hour-and-a-half journey through the UFC 238 weigh-ins. Casey Leiden, of course, was alongside me. The self-proclaimed expert of Sprott's Ball, Esther Lynn, of course, photographer extraordinaire. She also says woof woof. And that's a wrap. See you guys next time.